let's create a GitHub action and test it with 3 prompts. For this video, I'm going to use Cursor, and I also have the GitHub MCP Server installed. If you don't know how to install an MCP server in Cursor, you can find a link to a video in the description below that is going to explain how to do that. The first step we're gonna do is we're gonna head to the terminal, and this is not prompt, so I guess it's a bit of cheating, but we're gonna create here a folder called has package.json action. And then we're gonna seed into it, and with this, we're gonna open Cursor, and we're gonna paste here the first prompt. And this first prompt is going to use this template from this repository, which is the official Actions repository from GitHub. And this is a TypeScript-based action. So it's going to copy this, and it's going to create a new repository in my account. So here you can see that the last repository is mock lambda. We'll go to the Cursor. It asks if I want to run this MCP tool, which is creating a repository. So let's run this tool. There is an option in Cursor where you can tell it to just run whatever it wants. It's called YOLO mode. I don't feel very comfortable doing that, so I have it enabled that I need to confirm the command. Bear in mind that for an action to be tested by another repository, it needs to be public. So then that's why I'm selecting a public repository. Anyway, so now it's running all of this. It already created the repository, and it actually cloned the repository all in one command. So if we head here and we refresh the page, we see that we now have this public has package.json action. Now it's installing. Let's run the tests here. So I've made sure to add to the prompt this part where it says, after every prompt, check if there are new Git changes. If there are, then run npm run bundle, and then commit the code and push. We need to do this because we need to make sure that our repository is up to date. By doing this, we're going to be able to test this in almost real time with the test repository we're going to do, which is actually our next step. So let's do the next prompt. So the next thing I want to do is in this mock lambda repository, I want to make sure that I configure it to use this new action that I just created. Okay, so for that, I'm going to use this prompt. I want to use this GitHub action in this repository. Can you set up a workflow to use this GitHub action? I'm specifically asking you to use this tool called creator update because I want to make sure that it doesn't use Git. And I'm also specifying to not make other changes because sometimes it just goes on its own and start doing a bunch of changes I didn't ask for. So before I actually run this tool, let's head to the repository so you can see what it has. So it has just some simple files, that it has some init. So if now we run the tool, it should have created a file here that is under .github/workflows, which is correctly where it should be. So now we already created a GitHub action without doing anything other than the prompt, and we linked this GitHub action in another repository. We can actually see that it runs. Here it says check for package.json file, but actually this action does not have that function yet. That's what we're gonna do next with the third and last prompt. So let's hit send, and I'm gonna talk over the prompt. So here I have a very specific prompt, and the reason why it's so specific, it's because for the purpose of this video, I wanted to make sure this prompt would be reproducible without causing any bugs. But really at this stage, if you're actually developing a GitHub action, you would change this prompt and guide Cursor or whatever IDE you're using to do exactly what you want it to do. For now, let's just follow what it's doing. It's changing the action YAML like I asked it to. Let's approve that. Then it's looking at the main TS structure. It's removing the wait function there, and it's adding a lot more information here, which we can look at in a second. But for now, let's assume it's correct. Let's run the bundle. As a reminder, this is compiling the TypeScript file into this dist/index, and now hopefully it will commit our changes. So first it's adding all of the changes, then it's committing it, now it's pushing it. Finally, it needs to update the mock lambda workflow file so that it actually has the correct information to be able to run this action. It updated all of the code here. We can head to the repository and check that a new commit has been added. And we can go to the actions and see that the workflow ran. We can look at the details and we can see that it ran successfully. But It's always a good practice to check for when it should fail, because sometimes you might have a false positive. So we're going to delete the package.json and make sure that that action fails. So we're going to delete this file. And then we're going to wait until the action runs. We're going to head here. And we see that indeed it fails because there is no package.json. And that's it. That's how you can create and test a GitHub action using 3 prompts. So now, if you want to extend further or understand a little bit better what is happening, you can head back to the file and see the changes that it did. In this case, it is retrieving the token from the input, and this input is configured here in the action.yaml. This GitHub token is something that is provided by the GitHub Action. Then it instantiates the OctoKit. OctoKit is a client from GitHub that allows you to do a bunch of actions on top of GitHub. It grabs the context where it has the owner and the repo, and it gets the content from the repo from the root. Once it gets this response, it's able to check all of the files, and it sets this output of hasPackage.json. So that's it. If you want to keep developing, you can continue asking Cursor to just change this action for your use case. I hope this was useful. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.